to order. And I want to welcome everyone who is joining us for this special meeting of the board. Public notice, please, Ada.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, Commissioners. Adequate public notice has been given pursuant to the Open Publics Meeting Act. Notice has been posted at the board's office and website and has been emailed to the Department of State and to newspapers of broad circulation within the state.
Thank you. And roll call, please.
Commissioner Holden? Here. Commissioner Solomon?
Here.
Commissioner Shivakula?
Here.
Commissioner Gordon?
Here.
President Fiordaliso.
Here. And our next meeting, Ada, will be
The next regular board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 17 at 10 a.m. via teleconference with details to follow.
Thank you very much, Ada. The board will be going into executive session and we'll be addressing docket number ER 200-30190 in the matter of provision of basic generation service for the period beginning June 1, 2020. The board will be taking action on this item during regular session. I assume, or I'm estimating, that executive session will last anywhere between 15 minutes and 20 minutes. Will the Attorney General's office please explain the justification for going into executive session?
Yes, good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Good.
The board this morning will be going into executive session pursuant to the contract negotiation and attorney-client privilege exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act. These exceptions are found at New Jersey Statute 10:4-12B. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before we go in or ask for a motion for executive session, I would just like to remind particularly my colleagues and everyone really who's going to be in the executive session with us, that according to my information, and Ada, if I'm wrong, tell me, because you know how technologically astute I am. If you have to sign out of Zoom, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Sign into Microsoft Teams, then
Correct.
sign out of Microsoft Teams and sign back on to Zoom.
Correct. That is correct, Mr. President.
That was the most stressful part of my day. I lost sleep over that last night. All right, so do I have a motion then to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're going into executive session and we're going to sign off Zoom. Marianne, are you on?
I don't see Commissioner Holden yet.
Yeah, it doesn't look like she's in yet. Let me see if I can.
Welcome. Welcome.
Hey.
We were concerned that when you went from Microsoft Teams to Zoom, you fell.
No, I could have. I fell down on the job, yeah.
Oh, God. Well, good. All right. So let's get started. And we're back in regular session, and we had I think, a productive executive session. And I'm going to go right to the item at hand, and then I will have some remarks after that. So, Stacy?
Good morning, Commissioners. This matter relates to the basic generation service auction for rates that will go into effect beginning June 1st of 2021, should the board approve and certify the results. Before I forget, I'd like to thank Ryan Moran for all of his help during the auction process this year. The BGS RSCP auction was conducted on February 8th and 9th, representing approximately 5,157 megawatts of load in total. The RSCP auction lasted 22 rounds, with all 57 tranches filled by the auction. The auction started with 17 registered bidders and finished with 9 winning bidders. The cents per kWh winning prices are ACE 6.42 cents, JCP&L 6.477, PSE&G 6.48, and Rockland 6.692. The BGS CIP auction was conducted on February 5th and 8th, representing approximately 3,031 megawatts of load in total. The CIP auction lasted 29 rounds with all 40 tranches filled. The auction started with 7 registered bidders and finished with 6 winning bidders. The dollar per megawatt day winning prices are ACE $339.20, JCP&L $295.88, PSE&G $351.06, and Rockland $368.93. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Frank Mossberg from Bates White to give a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Marjorie. Thanks, Stacy. My name is Frank Mossberg. I'm from Bates White. We are the board advisor. This is the 14th year that I've been involved in this process. So based on our review of and participation in the process, we would recommend that you certify the results of the RSCP and CIEP auctions, and I'll give some reasons for that auction by auction. Starting with the RSCP auction, this is the auction for residential and small commercial customers. The headline here is that it was a good auction. It was very competitive. However, if you compare to past results, the results are a little bit deceptive. It looks like a huge price drop, and in fact, we see drops of between 10 and over 30% as compared to last year. But for the most part, what that is the effect of the board's approval of the EDC's plan to remove the transmission component from this BGS product. This is something the ratepayers will still pay. They're just paying the EDCs directly. So when you account for that, we would expect stable results, and that's what we got. We're looking at average bill changes from a 0.7% decrease to a 3.1% increase. We recommend that you accept the results for 3 reasons. First, it was open and transparent. Second, it was competitive. And third, the auction had winning prices consistent with market conditions. In terms of fairness and transparency, this is a price-only evaluation, so all non-price terms are standardized. The winners are simply those who offer the lowest price. All rules were clearly explained and fairly applied by the auction manager, NERA, and NERA gave us access to the full range of auction information that includes protocols, draft documents, and round-by-round bid independently verify the winning bidders and winning bid prices. I will note here that the evaluation was a little different due to the pandemic. We couldn't be all in the same office, but there were some adjustments made, more time was given to bidders, and the process ran reasonably well. This was a competitive process. Some of the numbers I can share in public, there were 17 registered bidders. Last year, there were 14 registered bidders, so that's a good number of bidders. At the maximum starting price in terms of eligibility, we had 3.28 tranches eligible to bid for every tranche needed. So that's really good. This excess supply is what drives down prices during the auction. Last year, that number was 3.23. This year, we also had 9 winners. That's the same number of winners we had last year. We also had a new winner, which is a good sign anytime you have new winners. In addition, we reviewed the results on a round-by-round basis, as did our auction theory expert, Professor Ken Hendricks of the University of Wisconsin, and we saw no signs of collusive behavior. In terms of prices, as I mentioned, we had expected prices to drop, and they did drop pretty heavily compared to last year. But again, this was expected due to the removal of the transmission component. If we adjusted for that, we expected stable results, and that's what we got. For a more detailed check, we used our benchmark pricing model, where we put ourselves in the shoes of a bidder and generate a range of bids we would consider reasonable. All of the winning prices were within this range. In terms of the CIEP auction, this is the auction for commercial and industrial customers. We would recommend you certify as well, and for the similar reasons. It was a open and fair auction. It was sufficiently competitive. This generally gets lower participation, but we had 7 registered bidders and 6 winners as compared to 8 and 5 last year. At the maximum starting price, we had 2.5 eligible tranches for every tranche needed. Last year, the number was 3.05, so it was similar to the past. And again, we saw no signs of collusive or improper bidding. Finally, in terms of prices for the CIEP auction, as a reminder, this is a full requirements product, but it's put together a little differently than the RSCP product. Bidders are paid a spot price for energy and a fixed dollar per megawatt hour price for ancillary services. So the price here is really meant to cover 2 things. It's meant to cover the cost of capacity and the cost of meeting state RPS requirements. Based on those 2 prices, our capacity prices are kind of similar. They were up a little for PS this year, down a little bit for the other 3 EDCs. RPS requirements were pretty stable, so we expected stable to slightly declining prices, and that's what we got, decreases anywhere from around 2 to 7%. So that concludes the formal presentation, but I'm happy to answer.
Good, Frank. Thank you so much for your expertise and in explaining this for us in the manner in which you explained it. I certainly appreciate that. First thing is, this does not mean, and I don't want any false information for people to think or come to some conclusion. This doesn't mean transmission costs have decreased, does it?
Correct. This is simply the effect of moving those costs from being essentially provided by the BGS suppliers to the EDCs. It means nothing about the actual cost of transmission.
Right. And but just as a matter of information and for the record, New Jersey is a member of OPSI, Organization of PJM States, and one of our primary complaints, frankly, has been with the transmission owners. And we've had a number of conversations with the transmission owners on the cost of transmission, and which is a big chunk of what every citizen in the state of New Jersey pays, and something that we regularly monitor. So I just want folks to understand that and know that that particular item has not necessarily decreased because the pattern has shown that it has increased year after year after year. So the second thing, Frank, I can't believe it's been 14 years that you've been with us and have served us well, and we thank you for that. Do you think the citizens of New Jersey benefit from our BGS auctions? I mean, this is our 20th one now, and do you think the citizens of New Jersey benefit from this auction?
Yes, I think they do, and I would certainly, after doing it 20 years in a row, if they weren't benefiting, that would be a real question. So I think there's a reason we keep doing this. It provides what these auctions do is they provide a market competitive, fixed, stable prices from the wholesale market. So they utilize competition to get fixed prices and provide a good deal for ratepayers who choose not to choose a competitive supplier. So in New Jersey and in other states, this really forms kind of a backbone. And then if people want to use a competitive supplier to get other things, they have that ability, but this is sort of forms a foundation from which the competitive market can work.
And the reason I asked the question is I wanted that answer on the record, because I want to make sure that the citizens of New Jersey are confident in the fact that we're choosing what we believe to be the best route, the best avenue to drive down as far as energy rates are concerned for their benefit. And that's extremely important. So thank you. Any other questions for Frank?
Yes, Mr. President. Frank, now that the capacity prices, capacity auction is based on proxy prices, and does it take into consideration the MOPR issue that's going on at the federal level?
I wouldn't say that for this particular auction, we're really doing anything more than kind of using those proxy prices. And just for the benefit of everybody, listening, what was done this year is, since we do not have, due to the smoker dispute, PJM has not run its capacity auction for any time beyond June of 22. So we don't have capacity prices. And of course, that's an issue for bidders. Bidders use those, have to provide capacity. They use those prices to form their bids in this auction. So the board approved the use of proxy prices, which will be trued up at a later date. So just because of the delay, of course, that affected the results here. But beyond that, the more technical dispute, I don't think had any more effect.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Stacy, do you have anything else you would like to add?
Yes, Mr. President. I need to present staff's recommendations. So the auction manager responsible for conducting the auctions was NERA. The auctions were also continuously monitored by staff from the Division of Energy, as well as Bates White. NERA and Bates White have both provided post-auction checklists that have been reviewed by staff that include in-depth analysis on how the RSCP and CIEP auctions were conducted. Both the independent NERA and Bates White post-auction reports are consistent and indicate that the auctions proceeded without interruption according to the board-approved auction rules and in a fair and transparent manner. And both Bates White and board staff recommend that the board certify the auction results. Staff recommends the board direct the EDCs to execute the necessary documents with winning bidders, including the supplier master agreements, as well as implement the rates effective June 1st, 2021, and file tariff sheets reflecting those rates by March 1st, 2021. Additionally, by order dated January 27th, the board certified the final results of the Rockland RFP and approved the winning bid price for Rockland's non-PJM BGS load to be rolled into the final RSCP auction prices. Staff recommends the board direct REGO to implement the BGS rates resulting from that RFP as blended with the auction results beginning June 1st and file tariff sheets reflecting those blended rates by March 1st. Should the board adopt staff's recommendations, a draft order has been submitted for your review.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Bates White, and so on. And as you've all witnessed, those who are joining us, the board approved the results, just did it, of the state's 20th annual electricity auction for basic generation service. Both auctions secured commitments for approximately 8,200 megawatts of customer requirements and roughly 1/3 of the needs of residential and small commercial customers in the state. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, as I alluded to when I was asking Frank the questions. The results will translate into relatively stable costs for electricity supplied to most residents in small and/or medium-sized businesses across the state starting June 1st. Beginning June 1st, average monthly residential bills will change, with impacts ranging from a 0.7% decrease to a 3.1% increase. As a result of a November 2020 board decision, the EDCs are now required to remove the transmission component of the BGS product for existing and future BGS contracts. Ratepayers will still pay for transmission services, but this service will now be provided directly by the EDCs instead of the BGS suppliers. And it is a cost that continues to increase. And it's a cost that, as a commission, we have no authority to regulate. And that's why we're working through various organizations to try to retain some degree of sensible pricing regarding transmission costs. This decision is largely responsible for the observed decline in winning prices for all four EDCs, with declines of between 10.6% and 36.6% compared to last year's auction, as Frank indicated. Even though the transmission component has been removed from the BGS product, the board continues to monitor and strongly advocate in transmission proceedings at FERC, consistent with the goals of the Murphy administration in an effort to mitigate impacts to New Jersey ratepayers. The auction was competitive throughout the bidding process based upon the number of bidders, the number of offerings for each block of power auctioned, and the competitive prices that resulted. Overall, in my estimation, the 2021 BGS auction was another success in its 20th birthday. Do any of my colleagues wish to make any remarks?
Mr. President, I concur with you that it's a very good auction. And even though one of the largest bidders, PSE&G, did not bid, but we had the number of bidders increased to 17 or so. And I think the BGS auction has proven to help the ratepayers for a long time. So you are correct about the transmission charges, and even though it's outside our jurisdiction, we are doing our best to see how we can reduce the impact of transmission costs that are levied upon us, levied upon the ratepayers unfairly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment, question? Hearing none, roll call, Ada?
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. And I want to thank Stacy and Ryan Moran for their work in getting us through another BGS auction. Job well done, as usual, Stacy and Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. President.
If there are no other items, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Well moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Have a good, safe rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.